Hey, do you guys play War Thunder? Because I play War Thunder.
Yeah, he's behind the house. I can't hit him.
Get your gun.
Oh my fucking god! Oh my god!
What?
Sorry. Can you survive for like 20 seconds?
Yeah, I think. I don't know. Never mind.
Alright,
I guess not. No.
Slowly.
Jack, start flaring. Jack, start flaring. Jack, start flaring. Flare now. Turn. Please turn. Please. I'm so sorry.
What the fuck are you fucking?
Why the hell do you have a... Oh! Luke's dead!
Oh my god, where was that?
To your right! I haven't scouted. Oh my god! All my boyfriends just fucking died. So, I was in the hangar bay, you know, how we all do, just chilling, looking at stuff, you know, because we don't want to play the game anymore, because the game, yeah, the game, you know, can have its moments. And, you know, I was looking at vehicles, getting ideas, of what to build next, how, to weather stuff, kind of, because there is some pretty good reference stuff in there. And I was looking at the Soviet tech tree, and it hit me, and I was like, oh my god, the MiG-29 is in the game. I forgot about this. I looked it up. When was the MiG-29 added to War Thunder? 2022. I am old because, oh my god, that was a while ago. Although, I think we can all remember shitting our pants, seeing the Apex Predators update trailer, and seeing the first glimpse of the MiG-29.
Wait.
And so, after that realization that I should be in the, retirement home, it also hit me. I have a MiG-29 model kit, except mine's just a little bit different. Also, before this video starts, Gaijin, if you wanna, sponsor me at some point, we can talk about that, because I would love that. You know, I've been playing your game for, probably 8 years now. So, hit me up, Gaijin, and we can, talk about some stuff. So this is, hold on. There we go. So this is Academy's MiG-29. Opening up the box, I took a look at the parts, and there were 3 bags of 2 spurs each. And for a kit from 1993, I was actually very surprised with the level of detail that were in some of these parts. Taking a look at some of these parts, here is the cockpit seat and the instrument panels that I will be painting. Now, it's nothing too special, but the cockpit itself looks fine. For the instrument panels, there was a good amount of detail with some of the switches and dials and the little screens that I can paint. Now, unfortunately, this was off camera, but I started painting some of the interior stuff. Here's the cockpit itself with the panels and the seats. Now, I'm very happy with how the instrument panels themselves came out. I think the silver brushing I did looks phenomenal. Now, here's where everything starts to go downhill. I got the cockpit into its position, and to fill up that part, there's these 2 halves of the lower fuselage, and you'll see in a few how this just did not work at all. But before that, we need to stuff this nose with weights like it's an ASU freshman. And looking back at this now, this might be one of the reasons why this part didn't fit well, why there were all these gaps, but nothing much you can do about it now. With that done, it was now time to add the nose cone, and I'm sure you can already see on the side there's these massive gaps that will need a lot of filling. Initially, to solve this problem, I took one of these clamper things, don't know what they're called, and I just put glue and held that together for about 2 minutes. And that plan didn't work at all, so I just went to gluing the wings on. And the wings went on actually rather smooth. There was no problems with these at all, and I didn't have to hold them in place for too long for them to fully dry. With the wings on, it was now time to put on another part of the bottom of the fuselage, and this part also caused a big gap in the nose section after it was put on. So I put on some more weights because I wasn't too sure if the ones in the nose were going to be enough for the landing gear yet. Once more the fuselage was glued together, I added on the stabilizers, and for the most part these went on pretty good. It took a couple beads of glue to get these just to firmly hold in place, but other than that, there were no problems with these at all. Except this happened. Now it was time for the vertical stabilizers, and these caused so many problems. I was sitting here for maybe 2 hours on one of them, and they would not glue in and hold firm. I had to use super glue for this instead, and even that caused problems. These, I don't know if it was me, if it was the kit, something was not working, and these were impossible to get on. Thankfully though, this is most of the parts put on. We still have to do some work on the underside of the plane, but for the top side, this is basically everything, and it looks really, really good. Except the gaps. Now it is time for the intakes, and the instructions made these make no sense at all. These intakes gave me more problems. You had to bend the intake part itself, slightly, or it would break. My dumbass broke one of them, and you'll see in a few. I had to kind of glue together to make it look like it was still one piece, but these intakes fucking suck. These should have been done a different way. And if you can see, here's the intakes all done. The one is a little messed up. I tried my best to kind of blend it in, make it not look like it's, you know, crap. The other one came out fine, but like I said, these intakes sucked. Now, gluing in the air intakes was a simple task. They went together pretty well. However, there were these little seams that aren't that big of a deal, but I'll sand them down a little bit later. Now, one of the last parts to add on before painting is the air brakes, and there's an option for open and closed. I chose closed just so it would be easier for painting and whatnot. Now, this is where the kit really, really falls apart. These engines were the worst things ever to build. Okay, I don't know if this was my fault or if it is the kit itself, but the way to build these engines are you snip out these massive sprue parts, right? You cut those out, but then you're left with these huge nubs which are impossible to try and sand down or snip down, whatever. It's impossible to get these to look clean. I had to spend about maybe 30 minutes on this, clipping out these big ass sprue chunks and then trying just to nip them down to make them look correct. This was terrible. You can see here in the video, I mean, it's almost impossible. There's huge remains of parts, and it's like, what am I supposed to do? I mean, here's me using an X-Acto knife to try and just scrape up any debris and clean it up, and while doing this, I cut the engine part itself a little bit. Now there's a nick. These engines were terrible. If anyone who built this kit had the same problem, let me know. If not, I guess I'm just an idiot and did it wrong, but yeah, no, these engines were actually terrible. Aside from that problem, building the engine itself was fine. It was 3 parts that went together easily for the most part, and I'll paint these in a metallic gray color. Other than that, the build process itself is all done. I have to fill in the seams now, but once that's done, we can finally start painting this thing. And for the most part, I'm pretty happy with how this is coming out. The only things I don't like are the seams and which is how big they are, but other than that, it's a pretty solid build, and I think it's going to look really good once paint's on it. Alright, filling in the seams. Now, for this, I use this white putty stuff. I do not know what it's called at all, but holy fuck. I don't know if you guys heard that. That was just lightning or thunder. Holy shit. Sorry about that, but so yeah. Getting the putty ready, you mix these 2 different color putties together, and then you roll them together like you would, like kind of like a caterpillar style, and these will then, after a day or so, harden up once you put them into the seam. So off camera, I was about to fill in a seam and the stabilizer broke off, and I spent an hour that day trying to glue it back into place. So the way I, get this putty into the seam is, very thinly stretch it out, and then take a toothpick and just kind of try and mush it in there. Maybe not mush, but like just trying to press it in there. Make sure it's, all in the seam, and then I'll wait for that to dry for like a day or so. The most egregious seams on this kit were definitely the size of the nose and whatnot, and then on that bottom there's just this massive seam that you can see. So I filled in all 3 of those, and then a little bit more on the bottom in the back part. There was a few little things to fill. Now enjoy this small compilation of me sanding these down the next day.
Princeton, teach me. Listen. Yo, somebody get the door. Digging in. You digging.
With that done, here is what we are looking at, and yeah, for the most part, the seams were filled in. You can see on the nose there is this hump because of just how bad the parts fit. Again, I don't know if this is my fault or the kit, but there is no way to really get rid of that hump, and that's going to be on the final kit when it's done. Nothing I can really do about that. The final parts to add on before we can start painting is the missile pylon, and these went on easily. When building the wings, they had you drill out these small holes for the pylons. I kind of wish they were pre-drilled out, so there's not a chance of you messing up. Whatever, I got them glued down, and we can finally start painting. Also, before we can paint, I had to stuff the cockpit. So for this, I just took paper towel, tore it apart a little bit, and then just stuffed it into the cockpit itself. Made sure, it was covering the most important parts, and then I took painter's tape and cut it up, and then just around the edges where the canopy meets, I layered it on there just to make sure it gives extra protection so that no paint gets in there. And taking a look at it, looks good. No paint got in, thankfully, and yeah, we can finally get on to painting. Okay, so unfortunately this was done off camera. I know, I'm terrible, yes. Anyways, off camera, I primed the MIG in flat white Tamiya primer. I let that dry for a day, and then the next day I took a look at it and it was all good, so I appreciated it. And this is maybe my third time ever appreciating a model. So what I did was I took Tamiya flat black and I thinned it down. I couldn't tell you the exact measurements or whatever, but I thinned it down, and then I'd also turned down the air pressure a little bit. And what I did was I just went over all the little panel lines and details in black, and this creates sort of a shadow. And I mean, yeah, from what I can see, this looks pretty good. After doing some research on MIG colors, I painted the underside of this MIG in a light gray, and I had this light gray from a brand called Model Master laying around in my paint collection. And this paint is 40 years old, and for a paint from 40 years ago, I mean, this worked wonders. And I think, from what I can tell, this mostly resembles the color of the underside of MIGs, at least to my knowledge. If someone has a better gray that they can tell me about, please let me know. But other than that, this worked fine for what I had. Okay, so unfortunately while filming this part, my camera crapped out, and any footage I got wasn't working at all. So, off camera, I painted the top of the MIG in a medium gray. I believe it was Tamiya, I don't remember the exact color name, unfortunately, but it was Tamiya medium gray, and it looks pretty good. I also masked off some of the bottom with painter's tape to avoid any overspray. And we can now start masking off for the camo itself. For this, I took more painter's tape. I took this clay stuff, it's by 3M, and I've used it for camos for years. And all I did was I traced out the outline based on the instructions, and it turned out really good. Now, the final color for this camo is a dark gray, and it's Tamiya brand. I believe it's just called dark gray. This paint went on really well, there were no problems with it, and thankfully I was actually very surprised that the masking that I did actually held up. There was no overspray at all, which was awesome, and when I unmasked all of this, I think the camo actually turned out really good. I was very happy with how this came out. Once painting was all done, it was time to now unmask everything, and taking a look at this after it was fully unmasked, I was blown away. I mean, I think this may have been one of my best camos I personally have ever done. Once the camo was all done being painted, there were a few more parts to paint. I did the nose cone in a dark gray, and this was simple. I just took masking tape, masked it off. However, I think I painted a little too high. Looking at the box, the nose cone part that's painted is a little bit lower. That's on me. It's whatever, no one's gonna really notice, but other than that, it looks fine. So, there were 3 last parts to paint, that being the nose and the tail. On the nose, there's this kind of black line sort of thing. I think there is a name for it. I don't fully know what it's called, but all it was just a section of the nose that you masked off and painted black. I actually, while masking this off, I was very certain that I was going to get overspray on some part of the nose or the cockpit. Surprisingly, that didn't happen at all, which I'm thankful for. And then the last parts to mask off and paint were on the tail. So on the outside of each tail, there's these parts on the top that were black. I don't fully know why, but it was on the instructions, and that was pretty simple to mask off and paint. And then once that was done, we can finally move on to weathering. Oh, my favorite part of model making, weathering. So, for the bottom, I wanted to do a pin wash. So, what I did was I had this oil paint called Starship Filth. And what I do is I mix it with turpentine, and it smells terrible. It's very strong. Applying this oil wash, I took a paintbrush and I just lathered it all along the surfaces of the plane. Now, what this does is the paint itself will get inside any panel lines or anything to show detail. And then once you wipe it away, that paint will stay in the panel lines or the detail that you want to highlight, and it creates not a shadow, but it makes it more vibrant, if you get what I'm saying. Cleaning up after you do a panel wash is pretty simple. What I do is I take a paper towel and I dip it in this low odor white spirit, And what this does is it removes any of the surrounding area that has paint on it, and it, for the most part, keeps the paint in the panel lines. You might have to do some retouching. I had to a bunch, but I let it dry for 30 to 40 minutes, and then I cleaned it up, and it works pretty good. Okay, so for weathering the top side of the MIG, I didn't want to do a pin wash necessarily, because I didn't want it to be as grimy looking as it did on the bottom. So instead what I chose to do is I used Tamiya's panel liner, and this process I've done before. I think it didn't turn out as good as I wanted it to. It was a bit hard trying to get the panel line fluid into all the panels and whatnot without overspilling. Some panel line stuff did come out and got residue on the MIG. I wiped it down the same way as I do for the bottom, and looking back at it, it doesn't look too bad, but there are some spots that have residue that I do wish came out a little bit better. Other than that, it didn't come out too bad, and it's something that I want to get better at in the future of doing, because doing panel lines can really highlight the detail of a kit. Okay, time for the decals. When I first opened up this kit, I thought these decals looked pretty good for a kit from 1993. However, you'll see soon I was kind of mistaken in some ways. So, the iron crosses themselves actually gave me no problems at all. Those went on very well and nothing ripped at all, which I was very surprised about. However, after that, it starts to somewhat go downhill. Now, there's these German flags on the back of each tail, and those flags went on fine. However, the main problem that you can see is if you hold it in the sunlight at a good angle, there's film residue that you can see, and I personally don't know of any methods to really get rid of that. Another problem I had was with some of the stencil work. For example, there are these X's with stencil work that are on the wings, and you can also see the film on those pretty good if you hold it in the sunlight. Now, the main problem I had with these decals was the numbers. When I was holding this thing after decaling, my finger was on the side and it just ripped up a number 4, and that 4 got completely decimated. Alright, so
for finishing up weathering, I wanted to do some silver chipping, and I think I did maybe a little too much around the plane. I focused mainly on the top side of the wings and around the nose itself. After that, it was time to put on the missiles, and surprisingly, these went on without any complications. On the pylons themselves, there were these tabs for the missiles to go into, and 2 of the pylons were missing the tabs. Somehow, yet, the ones with the missing tabs still went on without any problems, which I was very surprised about, and I think for the most part, they look pretty straight on there. Now, for the decals that I was going to fix. So, in my decal box, I found this sheet for a 1/32 scale tornado, and the 4 seemed to be in a similar way to how the 4 was on the MiG-29. It wasn't exact, but no one's really going to notice unless they take a very close, hard look at it. So I took this measuring device to make sure that the decal scaled similar to how the other one was, because they're both different scales. And once that was all measured, I trimmed the 4 down a little bit to make sure it measured up with everything, and you can almost see, but I applied it onto the plane itself, and it looks fine. So the final things I chose to weather were the engines. Starting off, I have this burnt umber pigment that I used, and I at first softly applied it onto the engine, and then I went a little bit hard the next time. I think I maybe went just a little too hard with the second attempt at it. With that done, I then took this engine oil liquid set, and I just smudged it all around the engines, and I let that dry for about 10 to 15 minutes. Once it was dry, I took a damp paper towel and then wiped it all off. And with that done, I just need to give it a flat coat, and now the MiG-29 is all done. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more videos. There is already one currently being made on my next project, and here's the MiG.
Here you go, big door! Engine out!